Good evening. That takes us to 51.
This one.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. It is very exciting to see a very full Harris Hall tonight. So thank you all for joining us for this December 10th public forum and city council meeting. I just got the count, and there are 51 of you. So I'm going to give you a little advance notice. I'll read the normal rules because we will begin with the public forum. And I'm going to propose that we keep the testimony down to 2 minutes. So if you have to do some fast editing, this is your heads up. And let me just read the rules for everybody. The public forum is an opportunity for individuals to speak to the City Council on any city-related issues except for those items which have already been heard by a hearings official or are on tonight's agenda as a public hearing. Each person will have 2 minutes to speak. When you come to the podium, please give your name, city of residence, and for Eugene residents, your ward if known. The timer and lights indicate the time you have to speak. The red light indicates the end of your 2 minutes. And just a couple of other little notes will be familiar to many of you, but not to all of you. There's a warm-up seat, so I will call 2 names at a time. The first name will be the first speaker, and then the speaker to follow can position themselves in the warm-up seat so that the transition goes relatively quickly. Ask you all, this is very crowded and lots of different topics to discuss, that you're very respectful and maintain a safe place for everyone here. So that means a quiet audience. We ask people to resist the impulse to cheer or show disapproval in any way, and make sure that everyone gets the full 2 minutes in an uninterrupted way to safely say what they have to say. So with that said, we will begin with Donadia Green, thank you, followed by Larry Bowser.
Good evening. My name is Donadia Green. I'm 29 years old. I have a 3-year-old son. In 1995, I was adopted by Bobby Green and Cersei Green. Since then, I've been on my own. Do I look homeless? No, I am homeless. It is one of the most hardest things to experience. It's been since June. I don't have anyone for my backbone. You guys are it. I'm here asking for you guys just to advocate for women in homelessness. Like, we need your guys' help. There's a lot of women out there putting themselves in situations to have a roof over their head, to get up in the next morning and they're asked, why don't you don't have a job? Well, a job is being homeless, getting up every morning, keeping a good face, going to see my son. It's hard. I'm struggling and I would like help with housing. I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Like, it's rough. I carry myself well, and I feel like I'm here to ask for help by Christmas or something. I'm sorry. Sorry, you guys. Keeping it real, but it's really hard. It's hard. I have 2 minutes. I don't know what else to say. I went to the Springfield Beauty of College. I graduated last year, but I couldn't go and do the exam because I'm a mom, and I decided to spend that money on electricity bill, not go chase my dreams to be a barber. Whatever happened with the Greens is the past, but I'm here now, and like I was raised here. This is like this is my home. I want to raise my son here, you know, and the father is involved, so my son is with the dad. He's not homeless with me. I've never slept in my car with my son or put him in positions, but I'm just letting you know that like we're out there. We need your guys' help. Seriously, I need your help. Like I need help. Like, and this is what you guys are here for. That's why I'm here. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Larry Bowser, followed by Dave Coolie.
Hello, my name is Larry Bowser. I'm sales manager at FM Jones & Sons on Highway 99. I live out 97404, but obviously the business located 97402. I'm here today to share concerns of, in particular, that I can testify for, of the incidents that have occurred at my employer's dealership since the camp has moved in next door. Prior to the camp, first of all, moving in, there's a certain percentage of homeless population that really has been fairly incident-free. We kind of, knew who the folks were. There's a couple folks that we might have some small interaction. But since the time that the camp is, with no notice at all, moved in next door, we've had pretty much daily problems all the way up until last night. We have a chain that locks the fence with a lock. Someone removed the lock and the chain. Why would you need to have the lock? You don't have a key to it. So we're having lost business. Customers have called me on the phone because they saw me on the news last week after I was assaulted and my phone was destroyed by some people that live at the camp after asking a question next door. There seemed to be some kind of entitlement that they felt that they needed to be there or they should be there. And most of all, there isn't a problem with the exception of now it's become a certain crowd that we've had security issues. After this incident, I personally couldn't. I started to walk out to my car one day and was harassed again. So we're hoping that we can find a different place. If it does end up being dusk to dawn's the best situation like that's behind the dollar store, then maybe there could be a different place instead of in community business on Highway 99. Thank you.
Thank you. Dave Coolie, followed by Serena Orsinger.
Thank you. I'm Dave Coolie. Would it be okay to pass out these booklets so that everybody can have a chance to look through them at their, go ahead, Bob. So I work at FM Jones as well, and I talked last week to the Lane County. Anyhow, just a list real briefly of things that, have cars that are broke into. They jump the fence and break into a pop machine, yelling and screaming on the sidewalk at themselves and us, and rock throwing, assault on our employees, feces on the property. Our office manager is afraid to go to the mail just in the daylight, just, and go out to our car. There's chances of getting harassed for money or whatever. Interfere with our customers that are on the lot at the time, and so we got to say, stay away in a kind way, honking off, and people are crossing at different times in the non-crosswalk areas, and that'll probably happen even after the crosswalk is put up. And one of the things that struck me is it's just a Band-Aid. Whatever's done is still just a Band-Aid. It's not really solving anything. We just move the problem around to some other. This particular spot it's already intensely crowded anyhow. And if we traded places and you had to be in our businesses, because I've talked to a number of businesses, there's 12 businesses or so represented here, and it would not be tolerated. It just would not be tolerated. This is, it's affecting our bottom lines, 10 to 25% or more. Bobby back there has the hotel, and people put online, great place, nice and clean. He's been there 20 years, and people don't want to come there don't go outside because people are knocking on the door wanting to sell drugs or ask for money, and then the smell comes over into the business, and you got the picture.
Thank you. Serena Orsinger, followed by Lee DeVoe.
Good evening, counselors. My name is Serena Orsinger, and I am here tonight representing Earth Guardians 350 at South Eugene High School, as well as the Eugene Community Climate Coalition. We at Earth Guardians 350 have been probably somewhat annoyingly been returning to testify for action on the Climate Action Plan for about 4 years now. To start, I would like to share with you a quote from Greta Thunberg, a 15-year-old activist from Sweden, that describes the sentiment a lot of my peers and I share. Some say I should be in school, but why should any young person be studying for a future when no one is doing enough to save that future? What is the point of learning facts when the most important facts given by the finest scientists are ignored by our politicians? With alarming headlines like that we have only 1 year left to bend the curve of carbon emissions and only 12 years left to limit climate catastrophe, the urgency is no longer deniable. And I'm not trying to discount the power of education, but I'm asking that you, the adults in power, act to protect our future so that we can feel that our future is secure enough, that we can take advantage of the luxury of education rather than fighting for what is apparently being treated as a luxury, our climate. Currently, Ms. Thunberg is at the COP24 in Poland. On Tuesday, she addressed diplomats, executives, and elected leaders, saying that we must realize that our political leaders have failed us because we are facing an existential threat and there's no time to continue down this road of madness. We can no longer save the world by playing by the rules. The rules have to be changed. So what I'm asking of you counselors is to be the rule changers. You were the rule changers when you passed the Climate Action Plan in the first place, and I hope you will again be the rule changers by drastically changing the current trajectory we are on in order to meet the goals set in the first place and ensure a livable future for me and my peers. Thank you.
Thank you. Lee DeVoe, followed by Todd Boyle.
My name is Lee DeVoe, and I am live in Ward 7. I'm a member of the Coalition for Compassionate Community, and I'm speaking for myself. We wrote a letter to James Ralph, Executive Director of the Shed, about the urgent need to shelter the most vulnerable in our community. Ralph didn't respond, so we picketed the Shed to bring greater attention to him and the Shed's patrons of this urgent need. The response from the patrons was mixed, some receptive, some irritated. The response from Ralph was vociferous and hostile. How dare we, compassionate people, viciously intrude upon his business. This all started after a letter, a public record, came to light, signed by 32 businesses, including Ralph, and sent to the city manager, mayor, and council, thanking them for the withdrawal of a proposal to use a small corner of a vacant downtown city lot to provide the most basic shelter to a very small number of the most vulnerable people on a temporary emergency basis. I can only imagine Ralph's angst, how threatened he must have felt sitting in his warm and dry home with running water, a flushing toilet, a shower, laundry, and kitchen, surrounded by comfortable furnishings and closets and cabinets filled with his precious belongings, far more than he could ever carry on his back or shove into a shopping cart. But luckily, Ralph has a good friend, Mr. Reese, the city manager, who made a personal call to Ralph and likely others, giving them a heads up, warning them of this terrible shelter proposal. Reese made this call to sabotage the proposal. If he was interested in gathering support, he would have brought together all the stakeholders for a how can we make this work process. And he would have included the people who have the greatest stake, the people sleeping on the streets. Shame on John Reese. What he did was unethical and unprofessional.
Thank you.
He should be censured and fired for this egregious, flagrant disregard for public process.
Thank you.
I'd like to have this entered
Todd.
into the public record.
Todd Boyle, followed by Pam Garrison.
Thanks to the city staff for their presentation on the housing tools and strategies outcomes. The most shocking fact that I heard tonight was the number of people living on $1,000 a month in the city of Eugene, 36,000 people. And that means that they're housing burdened if they pay more than $300 a month in rent. So that means that the best incomes of those 36,000 people can afford $300 a month, and all the rest of them goes down from there. And then we also learned that the median rent here is like $1,000 a month or more, and there's no rents available for $300 a month. So what that means is those 36,000 people are a dead man walking as soon as they lose whatever present housing arrangement that they have, and they have to go out to rent a place. That's called displacement. And displacement is not only to homeless status, which happens 150 people a month. That's 30 people a day, and that's 1 every 5 hours. Another person goes out to homeless, but probably for every one that goes homeless in the streets that we're talking about tonight, another 5 or 10 of them has to move somewhere else. And so there is a solution to this, and that is that you allow cheap housing. There was zero aptitude displayed in the housing tools and strategies, and I attended all the hours and read all the papers. All the solutions that are in that list are $250,000 and $300,000 each. And those are all, the only argument is between whether it's going to be built by the public sector or the private sector. And there is a cheap solution, and that's called let people live in their RVs, trailers, converted sheds, and garages. And also you can allow us to partition our lots down to sizes about 1,000 square feet. The mortgage on 1,000 square feet is about $47 a month at current prices of land in Eugene. And so the people who are homeless, I want you to know that for $50 a month, you can have a piece of land. You're being screwed out of a piece of land by the zoning and the land use requirements here in the city. So I want you to take a piece of paper, and this is a typical 6,000 square foot lot, and just divide it into 6 pieces. and that's 1,000 square feet. And then take a pen and draw a square on that about the size of a postage stamp, and that's the size of a 8 by 20 tiny house. That's what we're asking for.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Pam Garrison, followed by Sue Barnhart.
I'm Pam Garrison, and I'm with the Coalition for a Compassionate Community. I'm reading a letter that we received last Saturday. Hello. I'm writing to thank you for the letter published this morning in the Register Guard and to let you know how important I feel your group's work is. I also wanted to tell you that I'd like to support your efforts however I can. My brother, Ovid, who was homeless and lived on disability, was murdered in downtown Eugene on October 3rd. I wish that something like the downtown camp, until recently being planned for the old city hall, had existed before he was killed. Such a place might have prevented his death. Spending the small amount it would take to protect the city's most vulnerable and prevent tragedies like my brother's would be money well spent. It will cost the city many times more to house his killers than it would have conceivably cost to house Ovid. I agree with you that a location near the services and businesses the homeless frequent would be good. If this isn't provided, I fear some will, as my brother did, continue to seek shelter downtown in places that aren't safe. The homeless are human beings. My brother, in addition to being mentally disabled, had a master's degree in theology studies from Harvard Divinity School. Ovid told me of the great natural beauty of Eugene and that he knew some very kind people there. He also recounted some experiences that were disturbing. One thing is clear, though. Choosing to live in Eugene, Oregon should not have led to his death. Thank you again, Amanda Neal Roth.
Thank you. Sue Barnhart, followed by Michael Kerrigan.
Hi, Sue Barnhart, Ward 7. I wanted to talk to you about two very important issues tonight, both crisis issues, both issues that you've already agreed to, that there's a big need and that you were going to do something on these issues. So we don't need any more focus groups. We don't need any more studies. We just need for you to do what you've already agreed to do. The first issue is a shelter. We need a shelter right now. Many people have died. Many more can die. We need a shelter. If you can't get a shelter right away, then you need to develop some more safe places where people can be warm and safe. But why not have the shelter, the armory, turn that into a shelter? Evidently, Pat Farr has been working on that. You all could work with the county and open that up tomorrow. The other thing that we really need to do is to lower Eugene's carbon footprint. We could be the third city in the nation to have zero carbon. There's a lot of know-how in this town. It could be done. So no more studies, just do it. Thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Michael Kerrigan, followed by Louisa Mar.
My name is Michael Kerrigan, and I live with Sue Barnhart in Ward 7. So we're facing a serious crisis here in Eugene and a serious crisis in the world. At home, we have a homeless crisis, and around the world, we're facing a severe climate crisis. City Council made a promise to have a rest stop in every ward. I interpret that to mean in every neighborhood in the city, including downtown. We're facing NIMBY, not in my backyard, all over the city. It's incredibly difficult to establish rest stops, car camping, or a safe shelter of any kind. So we need the city to take on NIMBY directly, leading by example, saying yes in our front yard, yes by authorizing some kind of safe shelter on the city hall property, and possibly a day shelter there or nearby somewhere in downtown. And as Sue said, we also need more action on that public shelter. We need action, and we need it now. The future of our planet and those who live on it is in doubt. I applaud the city for creating a strong climate plan on paper, but we need to implement a much stronger action plan if we're going to meet the plans and goals and do our part to save our planet. We need action, and we need it now. Thank you.
Thank you. Louisa Mar, followed by Pamela Krauss.
Hi, Louis Vidmar, Ward 7. I'm also the president of SEIU 85 at the University of Oregon. I'm on the board for Santa Clara Community Organization and involved with the River Road Santa Clara Neighborhood Plan. So thanks for your support with the neighborhood planning thing. I was wondering if the phrase life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness means anything to everybody in the room. I support safe places for people to be, always, but especially in the winter. We have over 1,300 homeless people in our community, and moving 40 of them didn't help the problem. We need more places. If these businesses downtown don't want unhoused people downtown, they should find a way to hire them and house them. Find a way to end homelessness instead of criminalizing being unhoused. If capitalism is failing our community, capitalists don't deserve to profit from anyone. I'd like to also commend those businesses that are working to find places for people to be. I know there's some of them, and I wish the rest would follow suit, and please do what you can. Thank you.
Thank you. Pamela Krauss, followed by Mel Height.
First, I would like to deliver copies of Amanda's letter for everybody. Good evening. Pamela Krauss. I now live in Springfield. I'm a member of a large community of people dedicated to people who are disparaged. Hopefully by now you've all seen the videos I've sent you, taken of a woman crossing Highway 99 who uses a walker. Also her interview on the day of the open house. That's been person roulette on that road, and I find that appalling. The second thing I want to say, I also have a brother who has lived in Denver unhoused for 10 years. He was beaten almost to death a year ago. He now lives in long-term care because of his brain damage. That probably would not have happened if he would have had a safe, reasonable place to be housed. When I spoke to my brother today, and his name is Doyle, I told him what I was going to talk on tonight, and I asked him what he would like me to tell you from him. He said, use the resources you have like empty buildings. Be humble and don't be greedy.
Thank you. Mel Height, followed by Jerry Smith.
Hi. Okay, gosh, I'm a little shaken by her, sorry. Different types of shelter is what we need, not a one size fits all or one program fits all, okay? And I think it's super, super important that you guys need to be asking the experts. Like, there are lots of studies and lots of things. In our area right now, we have a lot of homeless experts that you guys need to be pulling from on what people's needs are. And everybody's needs are very different, you know. If you really want a model that works, give people the ability to be part of the plan, empowerment from a community of peers, comfortability of making things happen as equals, not as a top-to-bottom model where people tell you who you are or what you should be. Will you please not only give us a shelter, but give us camps and rest stops to fit the needs of more individuals? Not everybody can fit into the building lifestyle. So I think that there needs to be a place where tents can be. I think that there needs to be a place where Conestogas can be. It needs to be a wide range of things. Also, I want to ask, if you turn dusk to dawn on 99, what are you going to do with those people while things are switching over? I mean, it's going to be dead winter. Where are these people supposed to go? And then the 80 people who are supposed to fit there, what about the other 20? Like, this just doesn't work. People need to have self-managed camps, and they need people helping organize. And there are plenty of people out here who are quite capable of doing that. You just need to let it go and let them continue to organize and see what can happen. It's not time to shut it into a dusk to dawn. That does not fit the needs of a multitude of people. So I just ask that you keep open-minded and don't just let one entity run everything, because that's not going to work.
Thank you. Jerry Smith, followed by the Raging Grannies.
I'm Jerry Smith, MSW, retired social worker and community organizer in Betty Taylor's district. I'm seeing terrible things happening to apparently thousands of sick, disabled, and out-of-work Americans here in Eugene. Tonight, these ordinary people, families and children, are going unsheltered and uncared for. The name that hides them from government action is homelessness. There isn't a church or a temple or a person with a conscience in Eugene who does not see this as an emergency every night. A city that does not provide, this city, Eugene, does not provide adequate shelter or service. The county has written several 10-year plans to end homelessness, but with no effect. Demand state and federal emergency help now. Every day it gets worse. Homeless people in wheelchairs, battered women with no safe place to go. School authorities aware of hundreds, maybe thousands of homeless children in Eugene and Lane County. You have not fixed this problem in years. You cannot fix it. Call on state and federal government for emergency help now. For these people, the fire and flood of their lives, the emergency has already happened. There is a major emergency here and now. Declare a homeless emergency. How can you not notice? I see homeless people every week coming to First Christian Church. I just met a couple who got flooded out of their home and lost everything in the southeast. They went to Paradise, California to live safely. They are here now. It's not going to get better if we don't deal with both homelessness and the environment. We cannot go on ignoring this problem. Without emergency care, people can't camp, and we need to camp.
Thank you. Raging Grannies, followed by Linda Heil.
Good evening, Council. I think this group needs no introduction. There are a couple of things about this song I want to make you aware of, though. This is the premiere performance of it. It was written by one of our grannies, and it was written especially for the City Council. So we want you to pay attention and listen to your grannies.
Look out, 'cause we are growing bolder. We're gaining strength as we grow older. Our steps, they may be slow, and though our boobs are hanging low, we're raging grannies strong. We're here to tell the council that your time is getting low, to make good on the promises you made 8 years ago. Becoming carbon neutral, getting back to 350, or was that just hot air? You used a lot of fancy words, but here's the bottom line. The planet's getting hotter and we're running out of time. The 2020 goal line's getting shorter than this rhyme. Your action's overdue. Look out, 'cause we are growing bolder. We're gaining strength as we grow older. Our steps, they may be slow, and though our boots are hanging low, we're raging grannies strong. You have to take the first steps or the goal cannot be met. We need to see big changes, but we haven't seen them yet. Intentions are not actions, and the people won't forget. Ignoring climate change. Look out, 'cause we are growing bolder.
Thank you. Thank you.
Listen to us well, because the planet's going to hell. We're raging grannies strong. We're raging grannies strong. And we're sorry we overstated.
Thank you. Thank you. Linda Heil, followed by Carol Shearer.
Great respect to everybody who's come before me, in particular the grannies. Thank you. I'm Linda Heil. I live in Betty Taylor's ward in Eugene. 350 Eugene and the Eugene Community Climate Coalition have been closely following the development of the CAP 2.0. We are dismayed by the results of the November CAP forecast. The gaps towards the 2030 community measures for fossil fuel and emission reductions are 40%, 84%, and 102%. If you are the captain of a ship heading for an island halfway across the sea, and it becomes clear that the ship is 102% off course, or 84%, or even 40% off course, your immediate duty is to change course. A course correction. This is the situation that the CAP ship is now in, and the council and city staff are the captain. We are the passengers on board this ship, and we say that a course correction must be made now so that an effective cap may be in place by January of 2020. Good company can surely approximate how large they anticipate the final gaps to be once all the large lever shareholder contributions are accounted for. But council must be clear-eyed about the truth here. The gaps left by the large lever shareholder process will be so large that the plan cannot be successful in meeting the CRO goals. We are not blaming anyone, councilors, city manager, or city staff, for the fact that the planning is off course. We are talking about how the work is being done and the results that have been achieved. The simple fact is that this process is not yielding results, not yielding successful results. It is irrational to continue along a course leading to failure if there is any chance to make a correction. You are all rational people, so this is the only chance to make. If council will insist on a course correction now, a successful climate action plan will be ready to go in 2020.
Thank you. Carol Shearer, followed by Jim New.
I'm Carol Shearer. I'm in Ward 8, Chris Pryor's ward. All of us, council, staff, community, agree that Eugene must have a climate action plan that reaches the 2030 climate recovery ordinance goals. So how does the city get there from here? City staff have announced that they will present council with a gap strategy plan in January 2019 and will ask for more direction. So council must prepare to give an answer about what kind of course correction the city will make. A good portion of the budget allocated for the climate action plan development has already been spent. Do we spend the rest continuing down the establishment climate action plan 2.0 path until the final large lever shareholder report is presented in April? Do we ask the equity panel members to spend their valuable time reviewing the slim large lever shareholder offerings? Do we run out the clock for the entire climate action plan process through 2019, rolling out a public education piece about a plan that doesn't achieve the goals? Or do we make a course correction now? Certainly, it is most efficient to build upon the successes produced so far, and there are some, like the Transportation System Plan and the 2018 Department of Environmental Quality and Materials Management Report. But remember, it is a small fix. We still need almost an entire plan. That plan must enable and inspire the citizens, businesses, and industry of Eugene to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and to meet or exceed the community goals in the Climate Recovery Ordinance. Citizens are willing to make the changes necessary to create a more livable planet for our children's future. Who stands with us now? We are asking for a meaningful course correction now.
Thank you. Jim New, followed by Betsy Hits, or Hits, I guess.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My name is Jim New. I live in Ward 7, and I'm a member and volunteer with 350 Eugene. Council and staff have asked for suggestions and solutions from the community. Here are suggestions submitted by 350 Eugene, representing 1,700 community supporters, and the Eugene Community Climate Coalition, representing hundreds more supporters of 22 community organizations. Notice that these are not suggestions about specific action items that would be implemented as part of the Climate Action Plan. They are suggestions about how to structure the course correction so that an effective plan is ready for implementation by 2020. The experience of other cities, including Portland and Corvallis, shows that this can be done. Successful formulas are outlined in several sources, including the C40 Cities Project. The necessary components are as follows. Set measurable goals. Eugene has done this in the Climate Recovery Ordinance 2030 fossil fuel and greenhouse gas reduction goals. Establish a baseline. Eugene will have done this with its 2017 greenhouse gas inventory. Structure mitigation and adaptation planning around key focus areas. Decarbonizing power, low carbon materials, and efficiency in buildings. Next generation mobility and transportation. Improving waste management. And changing consumption habits and patterns. Eugene's 6-chapter structure would serve here. So 3 successes. Thank you.
Thank you. Betsy Hits, followed by Mitchell MacDonald.
Yes, I am Betsy Hits, and I live in Ward 1. Now we come to the course correction part, because here is where the ship veered off course. Compose a broad-based, this is number 4, compose a broad-based planning or advisory group, which includes community organizations, to complete the Climate Action Plan. The equity panel could participate in this capacity rather than merely reviewing the large lever shareholder contributions. Number 5, start with measurable objectives to each focus area and develop action steps with benchmarks over time to achieve the objectives. These last 2 steps did not happen in Eugene's process. The large lever shareholder process was used instead. And number 6, map a broad community education plan so that objectives and actions are clearly explained, widely disseminated and marketed, and reviewed and revised regularly during the 10-year implementation period. We have a year to put a climate action plan for Eugene into place. Surely you have read the many recent scientific reports telling us we must. Using the results that have been achieved and making a course correction now, Eugene can still get an excellent job done. Thank you.
Thank you. Mitchell MacDonald, followed by John Thielking.
My name is Mitchell MacDonald, and I live in Ward 4. I just wanted to talk about the camp on 99. I know there was a proposal to turn it into dusk till dawn, but the people that are living there have to have somewhere to stay. And I know there's been a lot of, people that don't want them in their part of the neighborhood, but they have to be somewhere. And so, the proposals of closing it down at certain times, people are going to be somewhere. So you're just going to be, chasing them around the city basically by where having an established place for them to be can allow them to receive services and to be more efficient instead of having camps pop up at random places. It just makes sense to let them have a place to stay and give them services. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. John Thielking, followed by Ralph MacDonald.
John Thielking, Ward 1. Recent weeks have seen numerous setbacks and betrayals with regards to promises made to help the unhoused. First, the downtown shelter idea was killed by a consortium of business interests pressuring the city council. Now there is talk of transitioning the Eugene Junction camp on Highway 99 to a much more expensive and lower capacity dusk to dawn camp with still no day use shelter in the works. I've heard that the budget for the dusk to dawn program may be as much as $1.4 million per year to house up to 150 to 190 people. I recall seeing prefabricated home builders having a springtime sale on 2-bedroom homes for $25K to $35K each. If you get 40 of these on city or county-owned land, you can get 160 people permanently housed for the target price of one-time $1.4 million and have money left over. Try doing a wholesale deal. You might be pleasantly surprised at the final bill. I did suffer a couple of other setbacks recently, including the death of my father, Roy H. Steelking, and the eviction of Judy B., one of my clients, from a nice Airbnb spot simply because she was homeless. A GoFundMe has been set up with a complete story about Judy and about pre-funding for my father's legacy 3D printed energy efficient housing project, plus a link to GoFundMe on the homepage of couchhosting.org. I now have a multi-user downtown activity zone permit for selling my couch hosting art cards. Eugene city staff should get with JJ at the Saturday market and figure out how to get the terms and conditions on the permit, which currently do not allow a display device, to match what is allowed for a display device on the permit application. And I have options for making money using selling the art cards or with Pay the Blog if you visit my Friday indoor open houses at 1017 West 8th Avenue in Eugene. Thank you.
Thank you. Ralph MacDonald, followed by Donna Riddle.
Thank you, Council and Mayor. I'm Ralph MacDonald and Betty Taylor's Ward 2. I'm a member of the Eugene Sustainability Commission, and I'm co-chair of the Southwest Hills Neighborhood Association. I'm speaking tonight as an individual. It's wintertime, and I've been doing a little winter reading about black holes. The late Stephen Hawking wrote about black holes, and Brian Greene has several books about black holes too. But it seems like the Sustainability Commission has been called a black hole, and we have some very good citizens that come to our commission meetings and testify about important climate change issues. And some of them go forward and some of them just kind of disappear. And the same thing is true of some of our recommendations that go to City Council. Some of them get acted on, but some of them, even some of the ones that get acted on, I don't hear back. It's not a very good communication strategy. So it's something we all need to work on as far as communications between the commission and the council. And I'm speaking as an individual, but I know that that's on the mind of other commissioners as well. One thing about Eugene is that I think we can be not a black hole, but a North Star. We can be a guide star for other cities. And whether climate change things are symbolic or whether they're substantial, it doesn't matter. We've got a proposal for tiny houses that has come to the council, and I haven't heard whether we can meld it with missing middle if you want, but tiny houses on small lots, as the gentleman said earlier, would be a good step forward for addressing the housing issue. We've got a work session coming up January 30th on plastics. I hope that goes forward. I think that the 99 rest stop, just to say something about another issue, is good, but I would have rather seen it downtown Eugene. I think that there is some classism putting it out for the businesses out there. Thank you.
Thank you. Donna Riddle, followed by Benjamin Brubaker.
Donna Riddle, Springfield, Oregon. I appreciate the work on the crosswalk out on Highway 99. I don't appreciate the lack of movement on having rest stops around the city, because when you put 117 people in less than an acre of land, you've got to expect that there are going to be problems. I really hope that you do find different places for people where they're not all crammed together. I participated in the resource fair out at the Lindholm Center about 2 weeks ago, and I was talking to someone from St. Vincent de Paul about the conversion to dusk to dawn. And I was asking what people were supposed to do with their possessions. And I was told they would have cubbies that were about 3 by 3 to keep all their stuff in. Well, they've already lost almost everything in their life before they get to 99, and to expect them to lose the very few things that they have left is inhumane. That's all I have to say. Please, let's get rest stops and varied places for people. Not everybody fits into a dusk to dawn.
Thank you. Benjamin Brubaker, followed by Rob Gray.
Hi, my name is Benjamin Brubaker, and I live in Ward 1, an administrative coordinator at Whitebird Clinic. Thank you for a moment of your time. I'm definitely going to echo a lot of the things that were already said tonight, but I just want to speak to you about the current funding and plans to help support those vulnerable individuals who are without shelter in our community. An issue our community has been struggling with for decades. I had Chuck Gerard dig up something from 30 years ago that had a really great layout of action plans and steps at that point, and that many of those same plans are still not put into action. I participated with some of the Occupy movement during that time with some supports that Whitebird offered. We saw a lot of those plans also not go through and not be followed, and here we are again. I want to thank you for taking bold steps towards increasing funding to support vulnerable individuals in our community, but more is needed to address the ever-growing need, and Whitebird and Cahoots need your help. Whitebird and Cahoots are basically a road to nowhere if we don't have shelter and options for people and extra services to help support those individuals that we encounter every single day, 24/7, as the Cahoots vans are going around the city and helping to try to support those that are on the streets. We need more rest stops dispersed throughout the metro area. We've heard this again and again, decriminalizing homelessness, giving people a starting point to be able to better improve their lives and transition out of homelessness. We need more services at those sites to help support folks transitioning from them. I know that Eric and Faye that do community supported shelters really believe that they're a transition point. They're not meant to be a permanent solution. But I know that they have developed from grassroots one of the best human service agencies in town that is struggling to try to house people, and they've done that with zero public funding and $0. And I'd like to see us put some of that on the table. And again, we need more sanitation, restrooms for all. It's a public health issue. And finally, we need to not put all of our eggs in one basket. There's a lot of bright, intelligent people and great human service agencies out there that would that would have great solutions to the issues facing us, and I hope that you'll also entertain their solutions.
Thank you. Rob Gray, followed by Bob. Don't have a last name.
I don't think Bob's here. I think he was with me.
Okay, great.
I'm Rob Gray. I'm the general manager of Advanced Auto Parts across the street from Highway 99 shelter. And, you know, at first I wrote a letter with all the things that bothered me about the shelter. But after sitting here listening to this meeting, I'm not going to complain about the people roaming around, the people walking around with hammers and rocks to protect themselves. I'm not going to complain about the locks being broken on my dumpster and the trash being out on the ground that I personally pick up because I don't feel right asking my employees to do. I'm not going to complain about all the guys coming in and using our bathrooms because they can't use the bathroom somewhere else and we let them. I'm not going to complain about having to zip tie my inventory to the front of our shelves so that it's not shoplifted. Because I think as a community, this is a really big problem. And you guys have a real big decision to make. I don't know what the answer is, but I just know it's bad. So, thanks.
Thank you. David Piccioni, followed by John Abbey.
Okay, a thought just occurred to me real quick. This should be called Eugene, the city of abortions. Every woman that does not have a place to raise her child and is having difficulties handling their everyday affairs should be encouraged gently to think about the death of the baby. I've been homeless in a lot of cities in the world. I've been homeless in New York, in New Jersey. I was homeless in Madrid, Barcelona, Nice in the south of France, Trieste, Venice, Bologna in Italy, Ljubljana in Yugoslavia right before the massacre began. Then I was a refugee in Vienna, Austria, and I saw some people that I had met in Yugoslavia that were just there trying to save their lives. Then I went to Amsterdam, which was really nice, and yeah, that was that. So I listened to this whole thing that was shown at 5:30. There were no solutions. There were just little teeny bits of facts. Why did I not get any information that I should join this committee to find out these solutions to the homeless problem? How do these people get in there, and what are their credentials, and how the hell did you guys not inform the entire population that this study was being done to help support the homeless? I would be happy if we don't even need to build any homes for the homeless. Just stop harassing them at night, waking them up and shaking them up. I happen to wake up very early and I go for walks and I see the cops harassing and telling homeless people to go from place to place.
Thank you. John Abbey, followed by Eloise Parrish Muller.
Hi, my name is John Abbey. I don't really have a fixed ward, so I could be voting for or against any of you in the next election. I'm here to represent the Shed, not the one you're thinking about. There's another venue in town, you may not know about it. It's the Shed with one D. And I just want to make sure everybody knows that we are not that other Shed. I just want to make that really clear. Because, you know, unlike them, we would absolutely support a downtown emergency shelter. My goodness, some of these people, we have hundreds, over 1,000 people struggling on the streets. Some of them have a hard time getting around. Having a place downtown, really important. I don't know how we can ask them to be off other places, but we need sites in every neighborhood, as you've said. It's really just a matter of following through on what you've said. And there's tons of land. This is one of the least densely populated cities, so it really, it's hard to take seriously all the looking for land. It's there. Find it, use it. Lots of places have been proposed. And an end to the rousting. No, I understand. Our customers, some of them are uncomfortable. I understand, but you know, we're a theater. We need more theater. There's lots of themes there about differences and learning from each other. Why a lot of these people on the street, they know a lot about living with very little resources. That might be really useful because you know that consumption is the 60% of the climate recovery stuff. We could learn from, you know, we might throw out our whole dates for the next season and just have some public get-to-know-you potlucks for the housed and the unhoused to maybe get over this discomfort issue and get to know each other better, learn from each other. So bottom line, I challenge the other Shed to do the same, to try and bring some common understanding and mobilize the resources we need to just take care of people, the very basics.
Thank you.
It's not that much.
Thank you. Eloise Parrish Muller, followed by Timothy Morris.
Hi, my name is Eloise Parrish Muller, and I've been a resident of Eugene for my whole life. I'm now a student at the University of Oregon, where I'm a member of Cascadia Action Network, a group of students working for environmental justice both on our campus and in the local and global community. Since starting my education at the U of O, I've been immensely impressed and inspired by the student activists I've had the chance to work with. Many of them can't be here tonight because they are out of town visiting family and friends for the holidays, but I think I can speak for all of us in saying that we view a functioning and ambitious Eugene Climate Action Plan in place by January of 2020 as an absolute necessity. And those of us registered to vote here will view our counselors' prompt actions on climate change as a central consideration when they're up for re-election. Eugene's 2016 Climate Recovery Ordinance is a fantastic step in the right direction, but it implies an indefinite continuation of greenhouse gas emissions, referring to human-generated emissions as something continuing at least until the end of this century. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change states in a recent report that limiting warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius requires us to reach net zero CO2 emissions globally around 2050 and deeply reduce other greenhouse gas emissions too, as well as active carbon storage techniques. And I have copies of the key statements from that report here for the council. Given the drastic discrepancy between what the international scientific community is telling us that we need and our official goals as a city, it would be good to hear what the council's plan is to fund carbon capture and sequestration efforts sufficient to offset Eugene's emissions, even if they're reduced emissions, for the entire latter half of the century. I hope that by now it is clear to our whole community, especially our elected leaders, that climate change is the biggest international threat of the century, and at a time when we lack national leadership in taking action against the crisis, cities and states have to step up, not just in words, but in actions. Thank you.
Thank you. Timothy Morris, followed by Stephen Carson.
Good evening, Council. Timothy Morris, Ward 1. I came tonight to speak about the Housing Tools and Strategies Committee, but there is clearly a consensus about speaking about other issues, and so I will email you. I personally work with a population of individuals that are unhoused, and generally what we see is there's one main point that I've taken away, and that is that action needed to be taken yesterday. When you are unhoused, you live in a constant state of crisis. There was a study done of putting people into a fight or flight mode and studying what the brainwave patterns were, and then studying the brainwave pattern of someone who was unhoused, and it was almost exactly the same, but that is their daily life. Maslow's hierarchy of needs states that shelter is the first need that people have, shelter. So please do all that you can in your possession to bring shelter to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Stephen Carson, followed by, hold it, David Strand.
I'm speaking up today to implore the City Council to keep the Highway 99 camp peer managed. Frankly, if the city goes through with the plan to give away control and change it from to dusk till dawn, the residents will leave and be back downtown, which I don't mind, but it seems the Downtown Merchants Association you're so eager to serve does. These people need a place to be. It's nothing like a permanent solution, but it provides a modicum of stability to the most vulnerable members of our community. Nobody talks about this, but it gives people a place to get clean. Addiction isn't driven by a weak will or a lack of moral character. It's driven by desperation, homelessness, uncertainty, and instability. A safe place to stay that you know will be tomorrow and a week from now is a relief from that desperation and uncertainty that can and has allowed people to break free from the opioid crisis in our community. Thank you.
Thank you. David Strand, followed by Chris McAllister.
I'm David Strand. I live here in Lane County. You guys have all heard me talk. You know I'm going to talk about affordable housing. You know I'm going to talk about rest stops. I'm going to talk about the need for all of them. I do a little housing thing. It helps a little bit of people. But honestly, you guys are going to look at my backside for a minute, because the people that really need to hear this are sitting in the audience. The people that are here can make a change are right here. These people can't make a change. They can suggest a change to this man. You guys are the change. It takes you being here in a united voice, speaking of what this community needs to make these people move. And as a previous speaker said, they're not moving much. We're gaining 150 people homeless a month. Part of that is on you guys. The infighting has got to stop. Make your voice be effective. Make your facts real. These guys can suggest change. This man can make change. You guys are the motor behind making that happen.
Thank you. Chris McAllister, followed by Robin Bloomgarden.
Madam Mayor, esteemed council, members of the public, my name is Chris McAllister and I live in Springfield, Ward 3. I'm here today, first of all, I would like to say our people are not a problem. We have problems, but we aren't a problem. So I'd really like people to start rephrasing that when they're trying to address us as a community. I'm formerly unhoused. It took hard work and community to help me get off the streets. It took hard work, but it took a community that understood and cared. And so I just want to say thank you to Mayor Venice, to Councilor Simple, to Commissioner Farr, to Mayor Larson, and to Councilor Van Gordon for being part of a change on the ground, for making a resolution that realized that, hey, we have the ability to actually help people this winter. And we can use data. We can work out how we fix things by including everybody. You have resources at your hands. You have the Human Rights Commission's Homeless Work Group. You have Ward 9. You have League if you want to borrow us from the county. We are here to help. We have unhoused voices who deserve to have a chance in stating where their future and their outcomes are. We know our obstacles. Just as, like David said, people need to be able to give you a plan to be forward. And I'd like to ask everybody who actually helped following the plan to stand, because if they actually help follow the strategic plans to find out where can we put our people, we'd actually have a lot of options. We don't have a lot of people here to stand because we've been distracted. We've been torn apart. And so with that in mind, I'd like you to consider, instead of losing what little shelter we have, let people regain their footing. Find places to put them if you need them to actually be out of your way, quote unquote. I also want people to reread that letter that came from the chamber. People focus on a couple sentences there, but there's commitments there. And they've actually been honoring part of it. The chamber has found at least 9 sites for us since they sent that letter. They're looking at ways to use day centers, and they're looking at ways to include people. So please consider to make an action to empower people while you're on session to actually make winter change today, tomorrow, the next day. Thank you.
Thank you. Robin Bloomgarden, followed by Wayne Martin.
Robin Bloomgarden, I'm in Claire's ward. I'm here regarding public awareness of the CAP planning process. Eugenians are counting on council to insist on a course correction now, so a successful climate action plan will be ready to go by 2020. Many of us are very familiar with the CAP, as you know. More and more people in the community are ready and willing to be involved. But most residents of Eugene are not familiar with it and may not have even heard of it. So a strong and far-reaching community education plan is vital. The city's outreach plans so far have not yielded much in the way of results. There have been several public presentations that review the graphics designed by an outside company and present a basic overview about the CAP. But we know that only a handful of citizens have attended so far. I personally only know about these from friends' emails. Many people don't read the RG anymore, so you must get the word out in the weekly and other media like radio and television and broadsides. Make it sound as interesting and timely as it is, and then reel them in. An in-depth flyer mailed to homes and businesses similar to eWeb's pipeline flyer would be very helpful. Use eWeb's list maybe as it goes to just about everybody in the city. Turn to community partners to spread the word to their constituents. Give presentations at PTA meetings, community groups, faith groups, and businesses every week between now and January 2020. Do schools have newsletters? Does the county? Find community champions who can deliver these presentations. Look around this room for some ideas. Make a simple and clear fact sheet and blanket the city with it multiple times. Leverage social networks. Thank you.
Thank you. Wayne Martin, followed by Dee Hagner.
Mr. City Manager, Mayor and Council, I'm Wayne Martin. I live in Ward 1, Emily Simple's ward. I'd like to share a parable with you because I think you'll find that it relates deeply to my final point. This parable didn't actually happen, but it easily could have. 6 years ago, my wife and I decided it was time for us to have a family reunion. We had some great ideas. It seemed as though our finances would work. We called a meeting of all 6 kids and their many grandchildren. We said, we've decided it's time for a vacation and we're going to go up to the San Juan Islands. Everybody was thrilled. A week ago, I realized I had miscounted our family finances. I hadn't taken into consideration a few things. My wife urged me to go ahead with it anyway, but I finally had to say no. Called another meeting and explained the facts, and they were crestfallen. That parable can end here for now, but it brings up the matter of something called saying you're sorry, making a promise, and then having the protocol, if not the decency, to say we really owe people an apology for what we promised and said no to later. I'm wondering if you wouldn't seriously consider composing a strategy for saying you're sorry. The politics of truly saying you're sorry before the sorry state of politics gets worse. Thank you.
Dee Hagner, followed by Lori Hauber.
Yes. Hello. My name is Danielle. I live in the Harlow neighborhood. I'm here because I'm heard about the natural gas movement, the weaning the public off natural gas, and it was really disturbing to me actually because natural gas is one of the cleaner burning fossil fuels, actually 50 to 60% less than your typical coal burning situation. So reducing the carbon footprint took root years ago, and around 2009, I guess, I started researching this because I'm a kind of I need to know person, and I dug and dug, and what I found was so incredibly shocking to me that, and I'm sure probably most of the public isn't even aware of it, but I want some answers, and I could never get answers. So when I went to the EPA's website, what I found was when they had the pie chart for the greenhouse gas emissions, they absolutely left off the biggest contributor to the greenhouse gases, which was in the form of water vapor from the earth itself. And the number was so staggering because on the low end, and this was back in 2009-ish, like I said, roughly, on the low end, it was around 70%, and on the high end, it was 95 to 97%. That is huge. So what that means, and anybody that's taken basic science knows, if you leave data out, and like in a pie chart, it has to be filled in. That missing percentage is filled in with the remaining greenhouse gas contributors. So carbon jumped through the roof. And I can't get all of this out, but I would encourage everybody to research this because it's a big, big topic. And I think it's a deception.
Thank you. Lori Hauber, followed by Michael Gannon.
Hi, Lori Hauber, Ward 1. I'm with Legal Aid. But tonight I'm taking off more of a legal hat. And what I want to speak briefly about as you deliberate about the future of Camp 99 on Wednesday is just a reminder that one size doesn't fit all. And what I've done with part of my time the past few weeks is I've gone and met with several of the campers at Camp 99 to learn what each of them need and what would work best for them in a camp. And can't share the details with you in 2 minutes, but there are a few themes I want to emphasize as their ambassador. And mind you, I've only spoken with some people. This is not a unified voice, but what I've heard repeatedly is the first step, and as you've heard it tonight and other times, is the need for uninterrupted sleep, because that's the only way people can start to recover and heal, not just from trauma, but just the stresses of living on sidewalks and being poked and prodded by police to move on. So sleep is number one. And rest, not just sleep, but rest is part of the healing process. And without it, there's no way someone can move on to finding housing, finding a job, and moving into a more stable situation. The other thing that I heard repeatedly is the need for self-governance and a peer support model where there's designated leadership with the support of the rest of the campers for day-to-day management. And that everyone contributes to the community. So it fits their own capabilities, whether it's helping build structure, keeping the community clean, but everyone has a role. And, oh, shoot.
Thank you. Thank you. Michael Gannon, followed by I can't read this. Running Bear, thank you.
Hi. Good evening, council, mayor, manager, assorted bureaucrats, friends. Oh, sorry about that. I wanted to get into a long 3-minute discussion about the topic I brought to you last time regarding the opportunity to cross safely in crosswalks. But now I've got 2 minutes, plus a whole list of other things that I want you to take care of. But I'm getting back to the simple one. I left it with you. I described this guy in a giant, modern, brand new truck who went around the block, stopped his truck and told me, I want to beat you into a little piece of grease on the sidewalk because I had the audacity to follow state law that gives me the right of way at a corner to cross the street. I've talked about it for several years and nothing is happening. And I know that when I started talking about it, it was because it was my own private, simple action plan to combat global warming. And the fact that nothing has happened for such a simple solution, I could take you all to Southern California, and they actually stop for pedestrians who went across the street. So we know that automobiles are one of the biggest sources of problems. I'll continue that, but I sent you a letter talking about the safe spots, and I made some points about how simply they could be changed, and you need to take some interest in doing that.
Thank you. Running Bear, followed by Michael.
My name is Running Deal, and I'm asking that you give Jackson and myself and the rest of us at that Camp 99 a chance to show you that we can govern ourselves. We don't need a whole lot of people coming in and telling us how to run our camp. Let us run our camp, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Smith? Michael Smith? Well, I don't know if I'm reading that right. Okay. How about Richard, who made a note that he was a self-advocate? Richard? There you go. Oh, Richard Self. Okay, and then advocate. Got it. Thank you. It's funny.
See how we misinterpret things just from the get-go?
Right.
All right. So that's just a great example of how things go. But I would like to say, as a former homeless person, and as a former homeless person only out of the being homeless for less than a year, my ward is still Ward 9. So you have proposed in your proposal, and by the way, with all due respect to you folks, you have proposed in your proposal a day center. I have mentioned to the mayor and other folks that this should probably be just off of downtown. This would satisfy probably everybody. But along with storage and access to services, there should be a place to let folks sleep. If you're coming out of a rainy, cold, miserable day where you've been out all night and moved all night, maybe you would like to sleep just a little bit in a warm facility, and you shouldn't be woken up. And this would also relieve the library of their responsibility as the day center. There needs to be, to deal with the problems you're hearing about from the businesses, the reestablishment, at least, of mental health facilities like the Richard Sherman Center, the wing of the jail that's gone now, and the other center that's on Royal that was spoken of by Whitebird and Cahoots need help. If you have a facility where you deal with the folks that are not able to help themselves anymore and end up doing things that hurt other people and businesses and so forth, then you need a facility for them, and you're not going to solve this problem. Rents are so sky high, people are hearing, are getting notices that are even on Section 8. Real quickly, this does not need to be an adversarial situation, us versus you guys. And last but not least, if this council acts by the work of men, it will come to naught. But if it be of God, it will not be overthrown. Thank you.
Thank you. Justin Thompson, followed by Amy Barrera.
Hello, my name is Justin Thompson. I am part of Camp 99 down there. There are people in there that do go to work. Me and myself, I do. And my boss likes that to where I'm in the same place every day. And I mean, before I was bouncing around town, it was hard for him to find me. And I'm just asking for y'all to give Jackson 90 days, whatever, and just to keep it around because it's pretty good over there. Thank you.
Thank you. Amy Barrera, followed by Ed.
Hi, my name is Amy, and I am actually part of the 99 camp. One of my concerns is if, for instance, I had a night job, dusk to dawn doesn't necessarily benefit me because then at the end of the day, I'm still out on the streets, even if I'm going for work. There are actually a lot of people that do have jobs and that do go to work and that do need a safe place. And such as myself right now, a nice place to rest and actually like gather myself like back to a point where it's like, I don't know, you're able to actually like feel like you're a regular human being or a citizen. I'm not a science project, and that's not okay. These studies in which I'm now hearing of, my kids don't deserve the ripple effect in which y'all are potentially could be like a benefit to or a negative attribute to, I guess, our community in the future. Honestly, the people do need a safe place. People want to be like normal human beings. People want to work. The reason why people have hammers and stuff like that is because we're building like our homes. We live in tents. It's cold. So guess what? We're getting what's available, which are pallets and things of that nature. And like if we did have the resources and we did have the community put together, I think that it could be beneficial for everybody in a whole. At the end of the day, you guys want to get rid of us? Well, guess what? You're gonna have to find a place to get rid of us. That's all I know. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed? Somebody just named Ed, no last name? Is there an Ed here? No? Okay. Eric Jackson, followed by Shannon McCartney.
Council members, Mayor, John. You guys have seen me for a real long time in this town. In always talking about the exact same thing. The county made a move and took a chance, I thought, but clearly had buyer's remorse. I'm hoping that you guys have had enough knowledge of me to not have buyer's remorse and to not so hastily make a decision to end something that's already at the point that you're going to end it, been going 120 days. So first week of January, so not the last week of December, as Pete Kearns told me. And I kept saying Christmas, and my liaisons keep saying, please don't say Christmas, Jackson, please don't say Christmas. You can't say they're throwing you out for Christmas. You know, they scheduled me early for community court because they know that'll probably be a little late. So Christmas seems like to be ready for Christmas first week of the year. Same thing to me. I don't do Christmas, so it's not really a factor. But you guys know that I care. you know that each and every one of those people that was outside with me across the street to the tune of 125 in as many as 87 tents reacted and worked with me because I worked with them, because I sleep with these people that are my friends. They are my confidants. They are my staff helpers. They are the people that deserve to have housing first, even if there's no bricks and sticks. If TAC is realistic in their proposals, then I am the low barrier 65-bed shelter currently. And please, table the decision. Give us 90 days, not throw us out for winter.
Thank you. Shannon McCartney, followed by Anthony Thiel. Shannon, got a Shannon McCartney? No? Oh, Shanna, maybe. All right, how about Anthony Thiel? There we go.
Council members, my name is Anthony Thiel. I'd like to address you with a story. I was a college graduate and I was a network administrator in Northern California and ran a computer lab for kindergarten through 5th grade at elementary school. I loved it. And thinking back, it reminds me of, I don't know if you remember childhood. You know, you had a curfew, you gotta go to bed at this time, you gotta wake up at this time, you got your toy chest, all your belongings gotta fit in there, you gotta make sure you put them away at night. Yeah, I remember childhood, and now I am currently homeless and living on Highway 99 at the camp due to extenuating circumstances. You know, I don't need to preach about how people put homeless people in a lump group, but things as divorce, contracting flesh-eating bacteria from a river, you know, anything could turn someone who had a good living to homeless, the situation I'm currently in, looking for work. And there's talk about converting 99 to dusk till dawn, having to check in at 5 while you're out looking for work or having a job, having to be in bed by 7, up by 6. I guarantee you don't sleep much in there, even in the camp. Being kicked out, you can't access but a minimum amount of your possessions during the day, not being able to go back. I know gentlemen that work graveyard. They like to be able to come back and sleep during the day. To try to propose that, it's said before, more eloquently than I'm putting to you now. Try to put all homeless in one box. You know, it's gonna be a struggle. It's gonna be, and I appreciate the side of the current business owners in that area. It's a work in progress, I understand that. But to ask us to relocate on short notice, not give Jackson and the people there, the people who are trying to make it better, a chance to make it work. That's all we're asking for, is the opportunity. And add the continuing of, we also need more locations. Different groups of homeless agree with different groups. You know, everyone's not one mold. So that's all I have to say. Like I said, it was said better before, but thank you.
Thank you. Majeska C-Screen. Majeska? There she is. Followed by Max Jackson.
Hello. I haven't spoken to you folks for a while. I'll be pretty short, I think, and pretty informal. I really appreciate a whole lot of what so many people have said tonight. And I won't be as eloquent as so many of them. I want to say something about the recent letters about the downtown, the City Hall, former City Hall site, the letters from the business owners, and then the letters signed by people from the new Coalition for Compassionate Community. I was really struck by the mention in the business people's letter about how fragile downtown is. And then in the protesters' letter, they mentioned, well, what about how fragile the unsheltered people's lives are? And I just can't forget that difference. I mostly, though, want to speak about the housing tools and strategies process. I was in the audience for almost all 4 of the sessions, and I was here for your work session too. And I couldn't put a whole lot of time into it, but I tried to keep up with the materials. And it was very unclear to me all along, well, is this supposed to include tools and strategies for housing for the very lowest income people. And because it was supposed to be about accessible, affordable housing and for, diversity. So it would seem like it was to be included, and yet it really wasn't. Now, maybe it could have been if more of the participants had made a bigger, a bigger priority of it. But as was said in your work session, the diversity of the participants in that was not really balanced. And I just don't want us to hear later that when we want city council and the city manager's office to work on tools and strategies for more building for the lowest income, I don't want us to be told, well, you had your chance and you didn't take it. Please don't say that.
Thank you. Max Jackson, followed by Jerry Glass.
Hi, my name is Max Jackson. I live in Alaska and just drove down here 60 hours to get here. My father is Eric Jackson. He lived in Denver, homeless, as you guys would say, for a couple of years, working, trying to advocate. And when he found out I was living over here in Eugene, he came over here and seemed like there was going to be a lot of progress. I was really impressed. Sounded like when I left from Alaska, the Highway 99 lot sounded like it was a great improvement, and now it sounds like I learned today they want it to be dusk to dawn. Imagine if you guys got kicked out of your house dusk to dawn. You wouldn't like that. Eugene's a place where I thought that he could make a lot of progress, and he has. I can tell just by seeing all the people in this room that he talks to and knows, and some of you guys. Never getting real sleep, always being afraid that you're going to get woken up. That's not a way to live. It's not a way to improve your life. This is a place where this is a very progressive city, and he's had so much more progress here than in Colorado, than in Denver. I was held at gunpoint in Denver because I stayed at his camp one night. I'm a political science graduate from college down in Florida, and I don't know. I thought that a lot better was going on, and now it sounds like you guys just want to throw them back out. There's nowhere to go. You can't just keep pushing people away. They're just humans. You want to push it away so you don't see it, so it doesn't make you uncomfortable. That's not going to work. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Jerry Glass, followed by Zandi Zinke.
Hello. When I first heard that you guys were going to do the Dusk Till Dawn program in our little camp, I started thinking I didn't like it. And the guy that runs the St. Vincent de Paul camp came over to us, and he's like, well, we want to get things done cheap and as efficiently as possible. Not cheap and efficiently. I mean, you can't solve this problem with cheap and efficiency. Then I said to him, go charge your phone. I said 5 times, and he was so disenfranchised with the true plight of what we're doing that he had no idea what I was even saying. What I meant to do, go charge your phone and experience this for yourself. He had no clue. You go over there, you can say, St. Vincent de Paul, what you're trying to do is they're trying to say that keep the status quo, because if they really cared about helping the homeless, there are people that have incomes that they could, that if he had the internet, if you had places to charge your phone.
Can you?
Are you okay?
There's actually a doctor in the back of the room.
I think.
Guy in the back of the room's my doctor.
Oh, is that right? So,
This last you heard, it was a doctor.
Tracy, it's the mayor calling you. Is it seem sorted out back there? Is he stable? Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. You know what? You can continue. I think we can start the clock again, and they have it under control. Yeah.
Anyways, if they were really interested in helping people, there'd be internet. There'd be people want to get a job. You sit in there, you can hardly charge your phone. you know, and whenever I was trying to eat, I have digestive problems. They're in there, people in there are so institutionalized that you have to be, 5 minutes before you're even supposed to be out, they don't even give me an hour to eat. You know, and it seems like everybody they're trying to make us not succeed. They give us a little plot of land, and more people are coming in, and there's no space. So we get to fire people, like threaten that, you know, we have no place to put our stuff. And I heard the gentleman that was doing the place across the street, you know, and I happen to know a lot of these people and get to know these people, you know, and they think that it's because of our camp and we're the problem. I tell you what, a lot of those Dusk to Dawn people are criminals that you don't want. You know, they're more criminal than we are. You know, we're not the problem. And the other thing that I want to say to begin with, there was this lady that was out there, and she was like asking and begging for help.
Thank you.
911, 911, 911, and they were at that center. She was out there, and they told me to dismiss her. I couldn't even get my phone to charge in there because I tried to call 911 for her. It turns out that she was a victim of sexual assault. You know, these people don't care about us.
Thank you. Okay.
You know, they just want us to be marginalized, not nobody care about us. I've lived in this town for 23 years.
Thank you.
This is my home. I'm college educated, and you can just brush me off if you want.
Thank you.
But we can also go
We have
like
more
during
people
Christmas.
still lined up to
We
speak.
go during Christmas and like
Please.
camp out at like the malls or something.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Zandi Zinke, followed by Stefan Struck.
Hi, my name is Zandi Zinke, Ward 1. I'm a member of the new Coalition for Compassionate Community. And if I am able to influence the group, which so far I have been, I will say that we will be in solidarity with the residents of 99 who do not want to be managed by St. Vinny's. Period. I have talked directly myself, one-on-one, with nearly 60 campers there. In all those conversations where I just approached to say, how would you feel about St. Vinny's? I didn't even mention the dusk to dawn part, because it's probably possible that it could not be dusk to dawn. It could be 24-hour. So I just asked about, would you want to be in a site managed by St. Vinny's? I didn't, of those near 60 individuals, not one person said they would go. They all said they would never go to a St. Vinny's site. So obviously some people will go to a St. Vinny's site, but the people at 99, at least close to 60 of them, will not. Including Dana, who was quoted, or there was a clip of her on television. The clip made it look like there were bad seeds and she was scared to be in the self-managed camp at Eugene Junction. No, I talked to her directly. She feels safe there because she has her husband and her dog there, and she's friends with people there. We just saw in the back of the room how important and potentially life-saving community is. If you disperse the people at 99 by imposing St. Vinny's management without offering another place where these people can go and not be dispersed, you will get letters from people like Amanda, who are relatives of people who are dead.
Thank you. Stefan Struck, and then our final speaker, Brandon Green.
All right, this has been a very interesting night tonight, and my name is Stefan Streck. Everybody knows me as the winner of the popular vote for Mayor of Eugene since 2016, and I am so proud of the city council that works so hard, and our city manager, who also puts in 110%, and all of our fantastic voters who have taken time out of their holiday vacations to come down here and let us know their opinions. I'm personally a little surprised that all 50 people before me had negative things to say about your performance. I would like to say one good thing. Over the past 4 years, we finally have fresh water here in the back. The little drinking fountain is still terribly broken, but one step at a time, government in action. I'm so proud of you all for one step forward. Now, I love Eugene. I want to say Merry Christmas to all of you and Happy Hanukkah to all of my Jewish supporters. There are lots of them. I was quite so happy to find out. The guys who visited a while ago, they had these wide brim hats and curls, and they were Jewish, and they were fantastic conversationists. I was so happy to learn more about our diverse community. Now, for the upcoming year, I think we can do more to help the homeless have a place to stay, and I think we can get an awesome city hall built. It's been like 5 years now since we destroyed the old city hall. Usually we have a plan to build a new building before we destroy the old one, but I think we can catch up a little bit. We have a whole city block. Now, some people aren't great at spatial coordination, but a whole city block is enough space to put one building, and we can make it great. There can be, you know, plenty of space for community activities and nice new offices for everyone to start the new year. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah to everybody, and I have Christmas cards for all of you, from me to you.
Thank you. And our final speaker is Brandon Green.
All right, that was hard to follow. I'm a new resident. I came up here from Medford, Oregon. I was a director for Brookdale Senior Living, and I just want to say that homelessness is because of us. People don't have a home because we didn't give them one. We have a lot of property in this county that could be used and managed by us for them. And that's what I want to present to you, the council, because I realize that you folks, you know, you don't have like magic wand that you can just fix everything. But we do have property and we do have people. Those two things can be managed. That's what I present. Thanks.
Thank you very much, and that ends our public forum. Thank you, everyone who testified and made comments, and for keeping that time, which was really excellent. Everybody who's managed the 2 minutes. So are there counselors who wish to comment on anything they heard? Counselor Evans and Counselor Semple.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thanks, everybody, for coming out and speaking tonight. You know, our climate recovery ordinance that we passed in 2014 is incredibly important in setting the goals that we articulate for climate change in our community out into the public domain, and to have our staff work diligently to try to achieve those goals. I think the effort is there. It's not moving as fast as I think the council would like, but it is moving. One thing I would like to point out is an article that I read in the Washington Post, and I'm quoting from the Katowice, Poland Summit on Climate, and President Trump's top White House advisor on energy and climate stood before the crowd of some 200 people on Monday and tried to burnish the image of coal, the fossil fuel that powered the Industrial Revolution, and is now the major culprit behind the climate crisis world leaders are meeting here to address. Quote, "We strongly believe that no country should have to sacrifice economic prosperity or energy security in the pursuit of environmental sustainability," said Wells Griffith, Trump's advisor. It was met with mocking laughter. We have got to put pressure on our federal officials and leaders to recognize that climate change is real. Unless we have an alignment on the local, state, and federal level, we're not going to make the change that is necessary to stem this crisis.
Thank you. Counselor Semple.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for coming. As always, you speak eloquently and tonight quickly. We appreciated that, but we listened to all of you, and I just feel despair. Of course, I want to still have hope, and I will never stop working, but the endless feeling comments of so many troubles, I just feel despair. I have people call me up advocating for someone who just needs a place to park, and there is no place. so they're going to be arrested because there's no place to go. This is an impossible situation. There is land, there's parking lots, there's empty buildings. Why do we keep refusing to look at the resources we do have? It's past time. It's the end of the year. Come on, let's get it together. It's solstice, it's dark. It's the time of despair. Let's turn it into the time of hope. Please, all of us, every single one of us, and I can't even tell you what to do anymore because I've tried all my tactics and I'm sitting here and you will tell me that I am not fixing it. You're right. Please help me.
Thank you. Any other counselors wishing to comment? Just a little follow-up on that, which is that Chris McAllister mentioned the Poverty and Homelessness Board, and one of the challenges that he had presented to us that we had taken on was to try to expand our car camping program, which is really sort of one of the fast ways we can help get people off the street, is to provide more car camping, and that counts on all of us. That's business owners and homeowners, and legal in the city of Eugene for any homeowner to host a car camper as long as bathroom facilities are available. So there is a way in which we all as citizens can help to provide opportunity for people. And so I encourage everyone to think about that, and I thank Chris for his advocacy on that. Okay. Councilor Taylor.
Thank you. I just wanted to say something about dusk to dawn. I think that people need a place to be during the daytime, and I don't know, I can't see, if I understand it correctly, then they would be turned out to find a place to be all day. Is that correct?
The current dusk to dawn model that St. Vinny's operates on the north side of the street, I believe, is that the people stay to a certain time and then they're asked to leave and then they're able to come back at a certain time later.
I think that's not a good idea. And the people who don't want people hanging around on the streets should want them to have a place to stay during the daytime as well as at night. And I don't understand why we would want to say, go away for the whole day. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, it is. It is International Human Rights Day. Thank you very much. And I think with that, we are close to the, thank you very much. We're close to the public forum, and the council has other business to attend to. So we appreciate your attendance here and your contributions. And now we are ready for the first order of business, the consent calendar.
Move to approve the items on the consent calendar.
Councilor Syret.
I'd like to pull item C.
Okay. We need a second to pull an item?
No.
No, we can just do that. Okay. So, ready to vote on all items except item C on the consent calendar? All in favor of the consent calendar minus C? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's great. Councilor, would you like to address item C?
Yeah, so I just wanted, if folks who are leaving the room could understand we still have a meeting that we're doing here and that's being televised, and people may want to hear that we, I believe council is about to adopt a resolution approving a low-income rental housing property tax exemption for 70 units of affordable housing on the corner of 11th and Lincoln. Yes. And I wanted to call that out rather than having it just passed in our consent calendar where folks would not hear about it. And I also wanted to appreciate that the developer of the property reached out, I'm assuming to all city councilors, but reached out to me with a phone call and an email. I didn't get to reply to that, but I really appreciated it. And I'm excited about the fact that we look to be on the cusp of developing another 70 units of affordable housing in our city and close to downtown.
Excellent. So do we have a motion to approve this item? Or
So moved.
did you need to speak?
No, I was thinking it was pulled after the motion was made, so it's still part of
Oh, so it's still part of the motion. Okay, so we get to just
You don't need
approve.
to put it back
We don't-
on. It's on the table already.
It's on the table already. All in favor of item C? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you very much. Okay, I am now adjourning the meeting of the City Council and convening the Urban Renewal Agency, and we have an action. Manager, do you want to speak to that?
Thank you, Mayor. The audit firm Eisler CPA has completed the audit of the agency's annual financial report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2018, and issued a clean opinion. A clean opinion means that the information in the financial report is accurate and reliable. In addition, the auditors noted that nothing came to their attention that caused them to believe that the agency was not in compliance with state regulations pertaining to debt, deposit of public funds, preparation and adoption of the budget, accounting records, and the related internal control structure. We are asking that the board approve a resolution acknowledging that it received the report, and Vin Cronin is here from staff to be able to answer questions if you have those.
Thank you. Do we want to put a motion on the table, and then with your questions, we can proceed?
I do. I move to adopt the resolution acknowledging receipt of the annual financial report for the Urban Renewal Agency of City of Eugene for the fiscal year ended June 30, 2018.
Second.
Are there any questions, need for staff referral on anything? All right. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that passes. Thank you very much. And then our next item, public hearing and action. Manager?
John's been patiently waiting.
This public hearing is an opportunity for the council to hear from the public on the first FY19 supplemental budget for the Urban Renewal Agency. The supplemental budget that occurs in December of a fiscal year is usually the largest because of the audit adjustments to budgeted beginning working capital and the reappropriation of funds from the prior fiscal year for contracts, program initiatives, or projects that were started but not completed in that fiscal year. This supplemental budget consists of transactions to amend the URA budget to reconcile beginning working capital and capital carryover, and to reappropriate those dollars or place them into reserve, and authorizes other unanticipated changes in legal appropriations for the current fiscal year FY19.
Thank you. I do not believe we have, do we have someone? Oh, we do have one. We must have one.
I'm wondering who that might be.
What? That's puzzling. And so we have a speaker, John Borofsky.
You have 2 minutes.
You got 1 minute now.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City Manager. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you about the Supplemental Budget 1 for the Urban Renewal Agency. As you know, urban renewal agencies sometimes can be contentious in this community, and for that reason, I think there's some things that you might want to take note of on this particular supplemental budget. In the past, planning and development has had some of its staffing funded, paid for by the Urban Renewal Agency, and it's slowly gone up over the past few years, and it usually gets adjusted in this type of a budget. In 2017, Planning and Development had $414,000 appropriated to it, and 162 of that was in the supplemental budget. In 2018, it had $722,000 appropriated to it, and 200,000 of that was added in the supplemental budget. In the budget before you tonight, it is $1.1 million to planning and development, and $320,000 of that is being added in this supplemental budget. I'm not saying that that is uncalled for, but these numbers are just a line item. And when you're talking about the percentage of the general fund of these things, tonight's appropriation is 45% of the actual revenue of that fund is going to planning and development for administrative staffing. So I'm just thinking that this may be something you want to ask about. I'm sure there are legitimate answers to it, but just getting this on a Friday and seeing these increases asks me questions, and I know, I read this budget probably more than a lot of people in the room do, and I can't get the answers from it out of the AIS. So just going forward, I think that you might want to look at how much of the administration is being paid for out of this. And so that's why I come to these meetings, so that you guys can look at this and ask the questions of staff, and I'm sure there are appropriate answers that are there. So thank you.
Thank you. Any comments, follow-up, feedback on that? All right. Yes, Councilor Semple.
I do appreciate you coming, and I wait for your words of wisdom, so thank you very much. And I also agree that there was not enough time. I have a list of questions, none of them big enough to make me ruin everything voting against it, but there wasn't enough time. I would have liked to look at it more fully. I don't understand why we're funding a parking lot at City Hall, and there's other things. It's not enough time. I'm angry about it, so thanks for not doing that.
I have Councilor Ye and then Councilor Siret.
Yeah, so I agree with Emily. I feel like we had this exact same conversation last year, that it wasn't enough time. I mean, I'm not an accountant. I'm not going to pretend that I am. And when I'm reading through this, I read it through twice. Beginning working capital, reconciliation, reappropriations, one-time funding. I mean, there's like tons of pages of this. And how am I supposed to make an educated decision about each one of these, whether they're appropriate or not, when I'm looking at it for like 3 or 4 days? It doesn't seem like a responsible vote. Okay, I have 2 questions. My first is, what is employee relations support?
That's that's not the urban renewal budget.
Is this not the, am I on the wrong thing right now?
Yeah, we're on urban renewal.
Okay,
I didn't hear us go to urban renewal.
Don't go very far.
Okay, so is this stuff?
Never mind.
The second,
Okay.
am I looking at the wrong stuff?
Are you,
Okay, so,
So
are
I'm
you on
looking
page
at this.
273? That's our,
yeah,
that's
I
our
think-
urban renewal
All right, so is
agency.
this
We're on the
the
urban
second
renewal
thing?
right now, yeah.
All right, fine. I guess I don't have.
okay,
Financial.
okay, it's the next one. All right, I will turn to Councilor Siret.
Yeah, I got that. I just got it in the wrong place.
So yeah, Jennifer, that's for the next one.
Oh, I
You can
will- Oh,
ask those questions. So I think John is probably correct, John Borofsky, that there's a legitimate reason for increasing the planning and development budget, but city manager, can you speak to that increase or have a member of your staff speak to it?
Yeah. Someone who can speak intelligently. That's not knowledgeably.
Good evening, Twyla Miller, Finance Director. So the administrative staffing increase is related to the work related to the riverfront development. So as you may have recalled in the past, all of the staff and the materials and services and things related to the projects in urban renewal are actually paid for out of the general fund. And then there's a transfer from the urban renewal operating budgets to pay for those. So this $320,000 increase is due to the increased staffing needed for all of the work happening with riverfront redevelopment.
Thank you.
Councilor Clark.
Thank you. You might want to stay up there. My question, I think, is going to probably bring you back up. We're acting in this capacity, as the mayor has gavelled us, as the urban renewal agency, but technically speaking, we have 2 separate urban renewal districts. So help me understand the management of such a process. Better than I obviously do here. Are funds fungible betwixt one district and another?
No, there's distinct activities within each district plan. So in the supporting fund schedules with your AAS, the activities for within each district are shown.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to get at this tonight. I'm feeling a little funny myself about the idea of voting on this just now. I'm going to think about what I'm going to do for a minute. Thank you very much.
All right. Any other comments or questions? All right, so you want to put them simple? Oh,
I just want to apologize for being on the wrong page. I'll say it all again later.
okay, excellent. All right, so I believe we need to put a motion on the table.
Already on the table.
No, it's not. I have to make it still. I move to adopt the resolution adopting a supplemental budget making appropriations for the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Eugene for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018, ending June 30, 2019.
Second.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Councilor Clark?
Can you talk about the relative increases that Mr. Borofsky just alluded to over time? I know that this one is about the certainly extended quantity of work that's done there at the riverfront with this new project. But it does seem an awful lot like, A, we're guessing short every year, and B, that number's growing at a pretty good clip. Can you help me understand why?
I do think it is related to the level of activity happening in both districts. I don't have the history with me this evening. We certainly can get information for you, though.
So we don't know whether or not there's been an administrative change in how particular expenses for particular employees' efforts are allocated in this case. Is that correct? I mean, over time, we've seen this level of growth. It seems pretty dramatic, and I'm just asking why.
Right, and they do track all of the time allocated to all of the projects. So there is a tracking mechanism in place, and then those are allocated back. So again, I don't have the details over time of how those attribute to specific projects.
But I would say on the Riverfront District, you might remember when we were even in the process of negotiating the deal with eWeb about buying the property from them, part of what we talked about, that there would be a need for at least one full-time FTE to be working through the Riverfront project, both on the, as we go through the DDA, development agreement, and potentially into the future. And so some of this reflects that increase that we did anticipate. The difficulty in any particular year when we're budgeting, we don't always know specifically the amount of time that's going to be needed, partly because we don't know how the work is going to play itself out always. And so that's what we're trying to do is come back and reconcile that.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, ready for a vote? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Excellent. That passes. Okay, I am adjourning the meeting of the Urban Renewal Agency and convening a meeting of the Eugene City Council. And we have a public hearing and action. Manager, do you want to speak to that?
Who could it be?
This public hearing is an opportunity for the council to hear from the public on the first FY19 supplemental budget for the city of Eugene. A supplemental budget that occurs in December of a fiscal year is usually the largest because of the audit adjustments to budgeted beginning working capital, reappropriation of funds from the prior fiscal year for contracts, program initiatives, or projects that were started but not completed, and one-time funding for key initiatives such as community safety, dusk to dawn, climate recovery ordinance implementation, and a capital transfer for homeless shelter options that are included in this particular supplemental budget, which also recognizes new revenue and authorizes other unanticipated changes in legal appropriations. Per the email from Twyla earlier today, a publication error was discovered that overstated the marginal beginning working capital in the general fund by a little over $850,000. And so the package you have in front of you includes the updated AIS, a revised fund schedule for the general fund, and an updated resolution with changes highlighted. And our approval is requested tonight as well.
Okay, thank you. So we have 4 people signed up to testify. First is John Borofsky, followed by Majeska C. Screen, if she's still here. Oh, yes, she is. Good.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council, City staff. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you on Supplemental Budget 1 for the City of Eugene. I think I'd like to just start this off by saying this is another large supplemental budget, $10.4 million of one-time allocations. That doesn't include the stuff that was already accounted for and just being reappropriated. Going to what Councilor Semple said at an earlier work session, when we're talking about this type of monies, it might take more time to do it. And it might even be appropriate to bring the Budget Committee in when you're talking about this type of fund dispersal. If you guys had said back in May, we've got one-time money of $10 million, how would you like to prioritize that? I think there would be a robust conversation about that. Not that the city manager's proposals go against any council priorities. They're all great things. Community safety bridge financing, downtown, dusk to dawn, climate recovery ordinance. These are all things that you have directed the manager to work on. So they're not outside of the scope of what you've directed them to do. But yet, I think that having the conversation with the Budget Committee might be an appropriate thing on the supplemental budget one. We've seen this one, $10.7 million being appropriated. And of that, only 2.7 is reserve money. The rest was unanticipated money that came in. Again, if you had known this in May, would you have put this much money to climate recovery, or would you have put more? Would you have done more for homelessness, or would you have done less? And would a in-depth conversation of that been appropriate? I think that could happen in the fall. You know, I got this, you guys got this Thursday. The public didn't get it till Friday afternoon. And now I hear that there is a change that was emailed out this afternoon. I'm not sure how that would go with public recording, because you're supposed to give this 5 days, it was supposed to be publicized 5 days before per Oregon statute. So I don't even know if it's appropriate for you to vote on it tonight. But those are just some thoughts to carry forward. You know, there's things, as far as the parking lot and getting it paved, I'm sure that's part of the purchase and sale agreement, and $140,000 isn't gonna pave that whole lot, I can tell you that. So, thank you.
Thank you. Majeska Seas Green, followed by Chris McAllister.
Hello. I want to say 2 points about the funds that are in this budget for homelessness and shelter services, dusk to dawn, things like that. First of all, I know it's too late to change this now, but I just want to say something about the Dusk to Dawn program that I said when this first came up years ago. It looks like we're a city that's not going to be a sundown city, but a sun-up city, because there's no place for you to go in the daytime. People don't want to see you. The second thing, though, is maybe more positive. It's about the line item there for the 15th night. I've been watching this over the years as best I can, and I see there's a very unusual relationship between the 15th night initiative and the City of Eugene, thanks to City Manager Reese and others. This is the first time that I've noticed that there's any money from a city budget for that. I might have missed something, but I think this is the first time. And this time it's $250,000. And I wonder how many people realize what that's for. I wonder how many of you even know what that's for. But I'm not complaining about that. What I want to say is that I urge you all in the future to be a little more open to additional projects with community partners with this kind of unusual model. I think the model needs to be fixed a little bit, but it's an unusual model. It's a kind of partnership where we know the community has to be very involved in these kind of things that deal with homelessness. And I've got ideas. I'll tell you some other time. I don't have time now, but there does need to be some funding sometimes from the government structures for major community projects, and it's really great when the city can actually be a partner in that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris McAllister, is he still here? Looks like he's gone. Michael Gannon.
Thanks for taking testimony on this. I'm glad to try to make some sense out of it. I also object to having such a large supplemental expenditure proposed sort of over the weekend. I know it's been in the works for a while, but I've been in this community since like about 1962 mostly, and it doesn't surprise me. I've been watching this form of government do this for a long time, and I've been in business in this community. I've ran a T-shirt printing shop here and have serviced a lot of customers for 25 years. But I'm not considered a stakeholder because I live on the streets. And I learn on the streets. And there's a lot happening that it's really difficult to explain to people about what is going on the streets. But I can tell you that I don't see the city of Eugene spending any money that makes any sense for people on the streets. So I sent you a letter talking about the safe spots. I mentioned the need for them to be self-managed in some form, and that it doesn't make any sense for people to be sent on their merry way if they're in trouble. I help a lot of people on the streets, and I see them in deep trouble many times. It's not, their troubles are not going to be solved by sending them out after struggling to sleep. It's sort of ridiculous. It means to me that you're not talking to some of the professional people in the nation who deal with homelessness and are teaching college students today about it. I don't see you spending money on a real expert on how homelessness is dealt with. So just a sliver of that money would pay for a really good professional on staff who could, instead of working constantly to tap down any initiative shown by people who are trying to pull themselves together, which is really what is going on. And then finally, I mentioned that you could spend money on the safe spots, and you could do it with the Dusk to Dawn program too. You could ask for way more detailed information about how the money is being spent, who's running it, what are the decisions, and you could spend that money within the safe spots in such a way that it creates stability to collect information for the city that could be used in years ahead.
Thank you.
Nobody knows really what's going on. You'll get dozens of different quotes about how many people are on the street, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And that closes the testimony. Any comments from council? Councilor Evans.
This is for the city attorney and the city manager. John Borofsky brought up that, based on some of the changes that we just got notification of on the budget this afternoon, I haven't even had a chance to look at my city email this afternoon, so I haven't had a chance to kind of put this all together. Would we be out of step if we voted on this tonight, or if we decided to postpone it so it gives council time to digest this information before we can make an up or down vote on this?
So I can speak to
Public notification.
your legal authority to act tonight, which is our finance department reached out to the Department of Revenue and spoke with them. And based on the process that was followed and the type of publication error was, you are within your authority to be acting this evening.
I can ask Twyla to talk about what that change actually represents.
That would help.
Might as well stay and sit up here.
So this really was a coding error. With the reserve for encumbrance, in the original funding schedules we received, the funding overstated marginal beginning working capital instead of being an offset to the reserve for encumbrance. So it doesn't change the amount of money available or any funding impacts or options before you tonight. It really just is a housekeeping coding issue. You should have a new AIS at your places that we've highlighted the areas where the changes have been made. But again, it really is a coding issue to align the funding schedules with the recommended financial transactions this evening.
I have Counselor Zelenka, and then Counselor Clark, and then Counselor Semple.
Thank you for including $190,000 for climate recovery ordinance implementation. Yay. Above that is the homeless shelter options. Is that an additional $900,000 on top of the $1 million that was pledged last year in the budget?
Yes, it is, and our thinking on that is that those could be dollars to help either implement the TAC report as we get the final on that, which could be as part of a public shelter or some other services or investment that you choose to make as a result of the TAC report.
Also note that in here is the $8.66 million for the community safety initiative that the council voted for. I wasn't there for the vote, but I would have supported it. And this is where it comes into play. It comes into being, I guess. Thank you for that, too.
Counselor Clark.
I'm entirely comfortable voting on this evening because my read on this is that all the major line items involved here were all things council had some deep level of discussion or some level of discussion with previously, and in many of these cases voted to direct you to please bring these numbers back on this budget. So I'm entirely comfortable with that tonight.
Counselor Semple.
Thank you. There's a lot of things on this budget I worked really hard for and that I'm really excited to see funded, especially the 8.6 for the bridge funding. I have a list of small questions I'd like to ask just to be clearer on things, but I don't think that 9:40 at night is really the right time that people want to hear all my little questions. So I'm disappointed because I would like to ask my little questions. And I don't think we get enough time. You know, the budget, you didn't write it last week. It's not like hurrying up and finishing the housing strategies. So I really don't want to vote for it because I don't think I had enough time. But do we have to vote on it tonight?
Just to put it a little bit in context, we actually don't have all this information as execs until November, so it isn't something that's available sooner than that because it's based on the actual audit of the previous year's finances. And so we don't have it months ahead of time. And it does feel big this year, but all but 2.5 million of that is reappropriations and or the community safety stuff. And so it's really 2.5 that may feel new, and even that, the climate recovery ordinance, we made the commitment to fund that second part this year. And so I definitely understand the concern about needing more information sooner, and we will endeavor to try to do that as best as we can, but some of this information isn't available to us either until we get into November just because of the auditing process. But we will continue to try to move it sooner, as soon as we can.
Well, even if I could see parts of it, that would be helpful. What's up with the parking lot at City Hall block?
That is what the county has expressed an interest particularly, and we support it just because of the parking needs throughout downtown, is when the properties, if they are transferred and they buy that property, and then we have the butterfly lot, the discussion is to have temporary parking to deal with any numbers of needs, to include, if as we move forward on the butterfly lot, that will displace parking. And what they have asked us is that as a parking fund, that we actually manage that parking lot as we do other parking lots. And so that's what that's intended to do.
And will that be the whole block?
I don't recall specifically. The intent would to be to try to get a lot of parking on there. I just don't remember if it's the entire block or there's areas around it that aren't. We can follow up with that, but the intent would be that at least the majority or a large portion of the block would be in temporary parking, which then can help with a lot of the needs that we have downtown as parking continues. The demand for parking goes up, which is good. It means that there's a higher use for them in the downtown. And this is one way to help provide some of that for a temporary basis.
And the demand for places to sleep keeps going up too.
Absolutely.
So it's just really odd to me that a few weeks ago we were possibly going to have a dusk to dawn in the day center, and now we're going to have a parking lot. You know, that just seems kind of an abrupt switch of plans, and I don't really like it. What's the money for the 2021 games? That's a chunk of change there.
That money is just a carryover from previous years. Maybe 2 years ago, last year, in the budget, the council appropriated $500,000. We had the conversation around what that would be used for. This is just, it's the unspent portion that's just continuing to move forward.
So where did we spend $28,000 on?
Be happy to have Sarah send you a note on that and where we're headed. Well, there she is right there. Okay, we'll do a living. I didn't see you back there.
As long as it's 30 seconds.
I believe that all that full amount has been to pay Stephanie's wages. So we have an internal staff person that's working to coordinate all the stuff, and she's been trying to meet with all of you. We try to backfill that so we keep the money as whole as possible, but that's supplementing that.
Great, thank you very much. I won't torture you with the rest of my questions. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Ye, come back to your earlier question.
Thank you. I apologize for being on the wrong page. All right, so you said you get all the information in November. So is that when you get the money, like the amount of money, or you start thinking about where you want to spend it?
So what happens is the CPA auditing firm comes in, audits the books, and then they, as a result of that, among other things, they say, hey, there's unanticipated revenue from last year. And then what we do as a staff and as execs talk about where would we recommend appropriating those dollars that we believe best continues to forward what the council has said that you'd like to do. In some cases, the budget committee has made recommendations, and the council has said this is where we want a priority, and so then we will budget there. Or like in the case of the Community Safety Initiative, you were anticipating that, and so we had all that conversation before. And so it's in November when, as execs, we get the first information about what is the amount of marginal beginning working capital that's available to make some recommendations around.
But there's always money. So I assume that before November, you're kind of thinking about what you might want to do with it. I feel like
thinking about it all year. Part of it, as we listen to the conversations at the council throughout the year, you're talking about any numbers of things, and then what we do is to try to take all those conversations and put them into potential recommendations for you to take a look at that point. So we really do think about it on an ongoing basis.
That sounds like a great process. So maybe earlier than now, we could get an idea of kind of what you're thinking about. Like, this couple of days is not acceptable, I think. And so if we can find a way where maybe you don't have all the information, but maybe you have some of it, so we can start thinking about, is this look like a good direction? So at the last minute, we're not going through each line item, wasting time. I'm sure you've thought these things out very well, but we haven't been along that process with you.
Be happy to try to sit down at whatever the right time is. But you have some more conversations about what you would like to see in that, or what you also think are priorities. So we'd be happy to try to figure out how to do that earlier.
That would be great. So piggybacking on Emily with this parking lot. So my understanding is, let me see if I got this right. The property will be transferring to the county at this parking lot side. Like it will no longer be our property at this point when it's a parking lot?
That's correct. So as part of the whole City Hall conversation, we're just waiting for the clock to run out on the appeal period.
Right.
If it's not appealed, then plus or minus December 17th, we can start consummating that deal. There's probably some time and sort of typical escrow kinds of things, but consummate that deal, and then they would then own that property, and so then the parking would be actually on their owned property. They've asked us to help manage that since we do that as part of what we do for services. And so we would also collect revenue off of that as well as.
What is the benefit for us?
Right, so we could benefit from that, from some revenue, and there could be permitting parking or hourly parking. I don't know the specifics of that. Our parking manager can send some information to, with more details on that.
Okay, my problem with this is it's not just about the money, it's also about the optics. I don't think it looks good with the situation we've been dealing with, but as Emily said, it's kind of the last minute to be second guessing all this stuff. All right, I appreciate that information, thank you.
Okay, Counselor Taylor.
I thought you were ahead of me.
No, it was Alan.
It was Alan. Okay, thank you. I have to make a comment about parking. If we would get rid of the parking meters on Oak Street and Pearl Street, all those parking meters near downtown so that people can park there, we wouldn't have such a parking crisis. They're busy, they're empty all the time because people don't want to have to keep running back to, but if people could at least, as you know, I think that all should be free downtown, but if at least the ones a few blocks away were taken away, people could park there and walk downtown and spend a few hours if they wanted to. And that would take care of a lot of the problem. I think it would be good if we know that there's a certain amount of money, as John Borofsky sort of suggested, if you could say to us maybe even a week ahead or 2 weeks or whatever, how do you think we should spend this money? We're going to have this much extra money. What do you think we should do with it? And I want to say about one thing, 2 items on here. The sister cities, is that the total amount we're spending on sister cities? $29,670? Or is this an addition?
Talk about the sister cities people.
Those are the unspent funds from last year. So those are the funds that are carrying forward.
That's all we'll be spending up on the sister city program?
No, there was an amount budgeted, and I want to say 40 or 50,000. So this will be on top of that. These were the unspent funds from last year.
Good, but it's still, I always think we're not spending nearly enough to support sister cities, which is our contribution to international relations, I think. And it's a commitment that's been made by a long time ago by previous city councils, but a commitment that we're obliged to stick to, I think. And I contrast that with the huge amount of money we're spending on 2021 for people who will be here for a couple of weeks maybe. And I object to both of those things. I think we should spend more on sister cities and much less on 2021. Just a comment, thank you.
Okay, I have Counselor Evans and Counselor Zelenka for a second round.
I think I got my question
Okay.
answered, so
All right, great.
I'll punt to Alan.
All right, Counselor Zelenka.
Oh, it was on a separate page, but I did want to comment on the reappropriation, which is this money carried forward, is the University Neighborhood Plan of $30,000. Does that mean that in the next fiscal year, we're actually going to do that plan, which has been in the works for 5 years?
I'll have to get planning to give you a specific timeline on that. I just don't know the
specific
timeline.
Start date?
We'll get back on anticipated timing for that plan.
Yeah, that would be very good. Thank you if you could do that. Yeah, and then when you really look at this budget, it's the $17.3 million is what gets or what's being forwarded here, and a lot of it goes to reserves and marginal beginning working capital, but $8.6 million is for the Community Safety Initiative, $1 million for downtown, $1 million, $900,000 for homeless, Dust to Dawn, climate recovery, employee relations, citywide communications adds up to the $17 million. So, all of which I support.
All right, and Councilor Semple, one more round?
Thank you. I do like the things that you've come up with for this budget. Do we have to vote on it today?
You need to vote on it by Wednesday at the latest. And so my only concern with Wednesday is there's lots going on Wednesday. And so
I'll vote tonight. It was a question of wanting to know. And this one will seem facetious, but it's kind of real. Will you be able to rent a parking space at the City Hall lot and spend the day on it or sleep there?
I don't know. I don't know is the question.
Well, I would like to know the answer to that, but I will vote without knowing it. Thank you.
Okay, I don't think we've put this
No, we have
motion
not.
on the table yet, so go.
I move to adopt a resolution adopting a supplemental budget making appropriations for the City of Eugene for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30, 2019.
Second.
All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and that passes. Thank you very much. And we are not doing the library tonight.
It's not urgent. It's important, but not urgent. So we can come back at the appropriate time.
I'll let everybody
Bless
know.
you,
Not to
Renee.
give it. It's a good news story, so I think we should give it enough time.
People are watching.
Okay, thank you all. We are adjourned.